This lesson we'll be looking at how to find the equation of a line. So I've given you a line here, I've got a Cartesian plane and I've given you a line and I've given you the coordinates of 2 points on that line. Now, there's two ways that we can find the equation of this line, and I'm going to show you both ways. So, the first method let's just write the question, find the equation of this straight line. Alrighty, so method one. Method one involves using the point gradient form that we looked at last lesson. So using y equals mx plus c, where hopefully you remember m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. We don't have the y-intercept here, but we can still go ahead and use this method. Now, the way we find the gradient, when we're given 2 points, the way we find the gradient is through using the rule m, or gradient equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's the change in y over the change in x. In other words, rise over run. So this here is the same as what we looked at last lesson where we called it rise over run. Rise is your change in y, your vertical change. The run is the change in x, so the horizontal change. And these, the y2 and the y1 are the two y coordinates, and the x2 and the x1 are the two x coordinates. And it doesn't matter which set of coordinates you call x1, y1 and x2, y2. The end result will still be the same, but often it's good just to label what you will be using so you don't get confused. So let's call this x1, let's call this y1, let's call this x2, and let's call this y2. Now, if we're to find the gradient, we will get m equals, our y2 is 7, our y1 is 11, our x2 is 6, and our x1 is 3. So 7 minus 11 is -4, and 6, this is minus 3 is 3. So our gradient is -4 over 3. We'd expect a negative gradient given the way that the line is going. So that looks right. Gradient of -4 over 3. So let's substitute that back into our gradient intercept rule. So we've got y equals -4 over 3x plus c. Now, in order to find this c value here, we can substitute in either one of these points here so that we can solve for c. So let's substitute in, we can pick a point, it doesn't matter. Let's choose 3, 11. To find c. So our y value is 11, so we'll get 11 equals -4 over 3. Our x value is 3, so times 3 plus c. If we keep going and solve that, we get 11 equals, these 3's will just cancel, -4 plus c. with plus 4 to both sides, we'll end up getting 15 equals C. Now we can substitute this C equals 15 back into our gradient intercept rule there. So we'll get y equals, our gradient was minus 4 over 3x, and then our C value is 15, so plus 15. And that's the equation of the straight line. So that's your first method. Let's have a look at another method. Method 2. Again, this method uses the rule for finding the gradient when you're given 2 points. So again, we'll be using m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, the other rule that we'll be using is called the point gradient rule for a straight line. So the previous method used the gradient intercept form of a straight line. This rule here is called the point gradient form. So you're given a point on the line and you're given the gradient on the line, and it looks like this: y minus y1 equals m outside of x minus x1. So that's an important rule to remember. So if we go back up, let's highlight that. That's important. And this one here, the point gradient form, is important too, and that's what we're going to use to find the equation of a line using this method. So we found, using the first method, that our gradient was negative 4 on 3. We already know that. Now we can pick for this x1 and y1 value here. Again, we can choose either one of these set of coordinates. Because I've labeled this coordinate here x1, y1, we'll use that coordinate. So our x1 is 3, our y1 is 11. So let's use 3, 11 as x1, y1. So we'll get y minus, if we substitute this coordinate into the rule here, y minus 11, that's our y1, equals m, so minus 4 over 3 x minus, our x1 is 3. Let's expand the brackets. So we'll get y equals minus 4 over 3x plus, so we're doing minus 4 over 3 times minus 3. So these 3's are actually going to cancel here. So we'll get minus 4, sorry, plus 4, because we've got two negatives there. Negative times a negative becomes a positive. And then we've also got this negative 11 here that I need to bring over. I can't ignore that. So that's going to become plus 11. So we end up with y equals minus 4 over 3x plus 15, which is the same as what we got using method 1. So that's how you find the equation of a line when you're given 2 points on that line.